You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYBC.
CYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first out of 93 WYBC Indianapolis. Whether you're joining us from our radio, TV, live stream affiliates, whatever they may be, you're probably having a better day than the following individuals: Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General of Minnesota Keith Ellison, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, St. Paul Mayor, I have no idea how to pronounce her first name, but her last name is Hurd. Heoli Hur. Interesting. And Ramsey County Attorney and Hennepin County Attorney John Choi and Mary Moriarty, respectively. They have been served subpoenas from grand juries by the Department of Justice from your local and friendly neighborhood Federal Bureau of Investigation. These charges that are going to come down rather heavily are not in any way, shape, or form the same kind of what we might call civil and white-collar issue crimes, in which someone gets dragged before Congress and they say, the great state of Missouri has asked you a question. That's not how this is going to go. These are criminal charges. And the criminal charges that we find are the either conspiracy to or the active obstruction of the Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency. We will have a chance to address these in a minute. To those who are very kindly giving super chats, you guys do not have to do that. You do not have to give us your money. Very, very kind of you, but please, the show's free. Stick around. I appreciate that. Sorry, to the news. Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, the Democrat governor who, I will remind you, was almost one heartbeat away from the presidency of the United States, is embroiled in all kinds of scandals. He, along with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, had previously got up in front of the country, in front of everyone, and announced very proudly that the President of the United States and Secretary Kristi Noem of the Department of Homeland Security needed to get out. You've done enough. That was the argument, right? They said, you need to get out because you've killed an innocent woman, and also you've burned our crops, and you've poisoned our water supply. Again, Tim Walz openly said all federal law enforcement needs to stay out of Minnesota.
We do not need any further help from the federal government. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough.
Now, in contrast, now that he has received his lovely subpoena, he's got kind of a different tune that he's singing. No, not American Pie. In this case, Tim Walz has now released a statement that sounds a little different. He says, Mr. President, Minnesota invites you to see our values in action. Come see how communities from all walks of life are working together. And how the spirit of the spirit of this state refuses to be defined by division or fear. I invite you to join me and others in our community to help restore calm and order and reaffirm that true public safety comes from shared purpose, trust, and respect. Interesting. Weren't you just one of the people saying, get out of our state, as Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, put it, get the F out of our state? By the way, a little viewer and listener discretion advised this evening. There's far too many spicy words from individuals without taste. Hopefully I'm not one of them. And Tim Walz here has now decided to come out and gaslight the entire country and suggest that, well, now I want Donald Trump in. Now I don't want him in. Now I do want him in. Now I don't want him in. It's like a teen girl sitting there on the bench with the rose petal going, he loves me not. He loves me not. Tim Walz suggesting that the American people are going to stand by when he actively got the Minnesota National Guard to a point that they issued public statements saying the following from the Minnesota National Guard under the direction of Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. One of the most insane things I think I have ever heard, from a National Guard. Members of the Minnesota National Guard are on standby. This was on January 17th, Saturday afternoon, ready to assist local law enforcement and public safety agencies. If our members are activated, they will be wearing reflective vests. And it shows two guys in multicam, the standard camo of the Army, the National Guard, and then high-vis, like neon green vests over their uniforms. If our members are activated, they will be wearing reflective vests as pictured here to help distinguish them from other agencies in similar uniforms. And then after they started getting roasted mercilessly for this, they issued a little caveat. These Minnesota National Guardsmen live, work, and serve in our state and are focused on protecting life, preserving property, and ensuring Minnesotans can safely exercise their First Amendment rights. So Walz gets out in front of the country through the Minnesota National Guard and says, we're going to give our troops a slightly different shirt so that you only attack federal law enforcement. That is insane. A lot of people focused on the fact that the two National Guardsmen's faces were blurred out after all of the argument over why would guys in uniform need to have their faces blurred out? That's not how we do things in America. I care about that particular point of hypocrisy less than a sitting governor, a duly elected governor of the state of Minnesota, openly suggesting through his National Guard that he would deploy them against federal law enforcement. Not against the rioters, not against those who are marching through Minneapolis, attacking those inside churches, smashing windows, setting fire to things, stealing federal law enforcement's firearms, documents, and ammunition. Heavens no. Heavens no. Now, Attorney General Keith Ellison also got a subpoena. It is not known yet, at least not this very moment, whether or not he is going to face the same exact precise obstruction charges as Tim Walz. Now, they are doing something that I rather appreciate, which is that they're not going in with big, huge, major charges like RICO, in which people would get out very easily. It seems as though they are taking their time and they are crossing their T's and dotting their I's, the old dots and tittles in place here. But in the meantime, Keith Ellison of Minnesota has his entire attention span taken up by, yet again, defending, just like he did in 2020 in the Summer of Love, just like he did when people were attempting to and succeeding to burn down neighborhoods in Minneapolis. Keith Ellison is now out again defending a church in which leftist activists, including an assistant to a George Soros prosecutor, because, freaking, of course, stormed into a church building in Minneapolis and mocked children crying in not the pews, but the seats set up by the congregants. What does Keith Ellison do to that? At the very, very least, misdemeanors of trespassing galore. Now, violation of the FACE Act and a number of other civil rights statutes notwithstanding, at the very least, the Attorney General should say, hey, you know what? Maybe don't. The Attorney General answers to the governor of their state or Commonwealth. However, the first thing Keith Ellison gets out there to do is say, you know what, raiding churches, that's a good thing. Keep it up.
Do with whether they're going to focus or investigate you. So I wish in a normal time I would say no.
So the CNN reporter, just in case you weren't privy to this particular interview, begins by asking him, hey, you're being investigated for your role in this stuff. And he says, well, enough about me being investigated. I'm going to go and defend the individuals who are also being investigated for violating the Civil Rights Act. I'm going to go in and defend those who are violating the law openly, no matter your political standpoint.
That they're going to focus or investigate you. So I wish in a normal time I would say no. I say this is First Amendment activity. In time like this, it's just really difficult to say because.
Interesting. The track record of those on the left, and occasionally Kristi Noem on the right, running out immediately and saying, I know exactly what happened here. Here are the facts, X, Y, and Z. This person's guilty. This person's innocent. This person's a domestic terrorist. This is First Amendment activity. What if, crazy concept, you shut your mouth and said, we're going to wait for the investigation to play out? What an idea. Then, hear me out. Once the investigation is finished, you then deliver your conclusion. But coming right out and saying, well, I mean, yeah, they were harassing people. They were making children cry. I mean, at the very least, even the most libertarian of people admitting this is misdemeanor trespassing. To be completely honest with you, I've seen far more than enough trends, and we'll talk about this in the next segment, of individuals saying, well, it's a good thing they didn't come into my church. I will advocate again before we even get into the meat of the story. Your church or synagogue must have a security team. You need to have a security team. I don't care what faith you come from. I don't care whether it is a Mormon temple or tabernacle. I don't care whether it is a Christian church. I don't care whether it is a Catholic parish. Please, 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 please make sure that your church has an active security team so that people like this do not get in there, so that left-wing attorneys general can then blame you for going to church after you are harassed and molested.
The only one thing is clear. If Trump likes you, you can do no wrong. If he doesn't, he's going to use every weapon he can against you, including our criminal justice system.
Interesting. So you can see him tie it up into himself. Because if there's one thing that Jacob Frey, Tim Walz, and Keith Ellison can do, they can get in there to any problem and make it about themselves. It's really incredible. I mean, it's the AOC Jasmine Crockett playbook, or really all of the main left-wing influencers at the moment. But that all said and aside, the president of the United States also made it clear that the coverage of these particular events are, again, on the wrong people. Considering the number of vicious people, the president got up in a press conference today, started kind of taking a small victory lap on his time over the last year. We'll play the entirety of this clip later. I'll play just a bit of it now. But President Trump got up and started whipping out the copies of all of the headshots, mugshots of all of the rapists, human traffickers, drug traffickers, arsonists, the Maryland men, as we might call them, who have been captured by ICE in Minneapolis.
People, vicious, many of them murderers. These are all out of Minnesota, just Minnesota. I say, why don't you talk about that more? Because people don't know. Do you want to live with these people? International murder.
Now, again, we will get to the rest of the president's attitude during the press conference today, and some of those things we have to keep moving. There's just so much to cover. Now, there are additionally developing shenanigans from protesters and rioters in Minneapolis, even as we speak. Now, it is cold up in Minneapolis. It's rather frigid. Hey, producer Daniel, why don't you be sunny weathers and give me a temperature on how cold it is expected to get this evening in beautiful Twin Cities area? Because there is a fair weather fan aspect to this. What individuals are running around doing in Minneapolis right now is essentially boiled down to blowing the rape whistle of justice. Not a joke. And then number two, I guess shooting water guns at cops?
You said something about a warrant, right?
Wait a minute. They're squirting a water gun? They didn't even have like a super soaker? It's just like a cheap dollar store like squirt pistol?
You said something about
Pointing a gun at law enforcement, whether it's fake or real, is a wild decision.
a warrant, right? What is FBI? What is DEA? What is ATF? Are they not law enforcement?
Who's gonna give my money back?
Oh, so there's the Speedway crackhead over there doing interpretive dance. Or is it the ICE agents that are shooting the water guns? I'm confused. Who's doing the shooting of the water guns here?
My Marine friend says that what you are doing is unconstitutional and
Her Marine friend. Ah, yes. The homeless woman from Home Alone 2 is here to tell us about constitutional law.
unethical, and he is ashamed for you.
Does he understand immigration law? Oh, no.
Absolutely he does.
Olympic break dancing happening on the opposite street corner.
Yeah, I don't think you do, though. I think you're believing what you're being told by superiors. That is not understanding immigration law.
That is not understanding immigration law. Again, says Piers Morgan from Home Alone 2's set. Exciting stuff.
Brainwashing you for sure. Okay. Watch the press conferences.
Everybody's entitled to opinion. Opinion means anything, right?
Do you see all of us and do you see you guys? It's very outnumbered right now.
Oh, the whistles are so obnoxious. Oh, yes. There we go. Excellent. Oh, yes. Fantastic. So some shenanigans in Minneapolis. Excellent things. The again, middle-aged white ladies are out in force on the left. The middle-aged white ladies on the right are at home with their families and being, largely wonderful people. On the left, though, well, we're going to get to that. First and foremost, we're going to dig into this situation regarding the church in Minneapolis that was attacked. Before we get out of the subpoena territory, though, it is worth noting other left-wing governors appear to be going down the exact same road that Tim Walz of Minnesota is currently chorus kicking. Janet Mills of Maine has now said that she is going to honor due process by, I guess, violating federal law.
We stand for due process. This administration in Washington has taken a wrecking ball, not just to the White House, the East Wing, and maybe the West Wing, but a wrecking ball to the Constitution of the United States, a wrecking ball to our rights. I happen to believe that the Constitution of the United States is something more than a suggestion box. It does stand for due process. It does stand for equal rights and equal protection under the law. And that's what we in Maine stand for, too.
Ah, yes, that's very exciting. That's great. Thanks, Janet. Yeah, it's a frosty 10 degrees in Minneapolis. So I'm sure these shenanigans will cool down, again, no pun intended, this evening. Governor Abigail Spanberger of Virginia, the second that she got in office, immediately rescinded law enforcement's ability to work with immigration customs enforcement. So just go ahead and pull the same route right at the beginning.
And this executive order rescinds executive order number 47. State and local law enforcement should not be required to divert their limited resources to enforce federal civil immigration laws. It is a responsibility of federal law enforcement. Virginia state and local law enforcement officers must be able to focus on their core responsibilities, investigating crime and community policing.
Well done, Virginia. And well done, Republican Party over in Virginia as well, nominating someone whose entire campaign boiled down to, I'm not Abigail Spanberger. Yes, that worked out so well. Over to the actual ICE, the Immigration Customs Enforcement situation. Right now, the country is not entirely sure how it feels about ICE. It's not. I've seen polls that have shifted all the way. The CBS YouGov poll says no one likes ICE. The Scott Rasmussen poll says everybody likes ICE. Some of the middle ground polls are not like in the middle. I mean, they're everywhere. It's anyone's guess how actual average Americans across the country feel about immigration customs and enforcement at the moment. But as per the data, right now, what we are seeing is that if you live in a red state or a red reigning jurisdiction, it is likely that ICE came in, said, hey, I heard you have some illegals who have committed crimes in your jails. Please allow us to deport them. And then it was easy. In blue states, not so much. Here's Greg Bavino, Border Patrol Commander, making clear the distinction between, for example, Louisiana and Minnesota.
Things coupled together make that a difficult operating environment at times. And the reason I say that is I just came from Operation Catahoula Crunch there in Louisiana, in which state and locals, including the governor, the mayors, the police chief, worked in close concert for us to do what my colleague here, Marcos Charles, said, and that's remove violent offenders, bad people and bad things from the streets. And in doing that, I had one act of violence against Border Patrol, one notable act of violence against Border Patrol in a month. Here, I've lost count. I've already lost count of how many. I believe we had a vehicle ramming today. We had one yesterday in which 2 illegal aliens decided that it would be a good idea to ram Border Patrol agents and then take off. And in doing so, they hit a civilian vehicle as well. Those 2 were apprehended. So again, it's really not a difficult thing if you are out there suggesting policy to law enforcement. Now, unfortunately, again, the topsy-turvy does not stop here. This brings us to the really disgusting event over the weekend that the individuals on the left, at least over on the botox show host number 37, Jennifer Welch in this case, have decided to make their entire push for 2026. And the reason that we're going to go through this particular event in the church step by step and look at the outgrowth from this and the new federal investigation into this situation, number one, is because it is likely to continue, given the defense it's already been given in the media. Number two, that this is something that is driving a huge portion of the voting demographic over on the left of the United States. And number three, because it has the potential
to upend any of the polling irregularities right now in the United States. We're going to get into that and a lot more. Don't go anywhere. Big stuff to get into tonight. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast. Oh yeah, you thought we'd have long commercials around here? No, absolutely not. That's just a break for the radio shows that are going to get this later. So, let's talk about the disgusting event over the weekend, City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. There was some suspicion, and by that I mean someone on Reddit decided that David Easterwood, the pastor of that church, in his downtime, was actually secretly a super duper ICE Gestapo officer man. And so the individuals under a BLM leader, Nakima Levy Armstrong, a civil rights attorney and activist associated with the Racial Justice Network, decided that she would gather some friends and pals and Don Lemon, formerly of CNN, and then they would go in the middle of the pastor's sermon while he was preaching. They would bust into the church and start harassing the pastor and the people inside, all because they believed that this David Easterwood pastor, otherwise known as a white guy with a beard, looked suspiciously like this one ICE captain or had a similar name, because David Easterwood, I mean, wow, that sounds like the most uncommon name in the United States. So first of all, here is the group of activists moving through the church. Now, the individual whose video we're going to be looking at here is William Kelly. We're going to get to later. You can see while he films vertically, there's a smaller camera angle in which you can see his face as he's yelling at women and children. And it appears to be outraged by them being afraid of the huge group coming in and screaming at them during church.
The Lord is safe in your house. The training you want to get your house in order.
That is correct.
All right, right off the top of the bat, it's just people sitting in church. That's it. Now, you can just see normal people, men, women, white, brown, black. You know, as the old song goes, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. And it's a rather diverse group. Now, does that matter? No. But for the framing argument that's going to come up in a minute, it's at least important to, smack down, well, the stupid arguments that come out of these situations. So you can see the individuals sitting in church, and then, you can hear Levy Armstrong arguing with the pastor in front of the congregation. So they start screaming, "Justice for Renee Good." Now, did Renee Good go to this church? No, we have no evidence of that whatsoever. Did Renee Good have friends or family at this church? Nope, no evidence of that either. This is all because some goober on Reddit made an accusation. By the way, now Don Lemon, the journalist, formerly of CNN, who went here with this particular group to harass the members of this church, and then, of course, the head of the protest, again, riot, because they are breaking the law, Nakima Levy Armstrong, they have stopped claiming that David Easterwood, the pastor here, is the David Easterwood of ICE. That's a very, very bad sign for them, not for again, justice, the rule of law, and honesty here. But they start screaming again. Look, there is a mother at the bottom there with a child on her lap. And what appears to be young woman next to her, probably her daughter, who is covering her face. She's terrified. Terrified. You've ever seen any footage of individuals like this, acting like this, screaming and yelling in downtown Minneapolis like they absolutely saw in 2020, or in Philadelphia any day of the given week? Then these things often turn out violent. Now, there you go. So then this individual with the IQ of a rotten grapefruit, again, that being William Kelly, who we're going to get to in a minute here, because he now is doing his best Braveheart impression, but without, the actual cinematic quality. He goes up to the pastor who's preaching. Again, white guy in a beard. Ooh. And says, who are your people? Where are your people? He's talking about ICE. Again, the accusation is, you are this ICE guy. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Someone being in ICE does not give you the right to trespass. Someone being in ICE does not give you the right to commit harassment. Someone being in ICE does not give you the right to follow them around like Maxine Waters suggested, jowls shaking years ago. You got to get out there and get in their face. No, you don't get a right to do that. That's not a thing. Don't let some fat, ugly, left-leaning cat lady get in your face and tell you, I looked at immigration law on Facebook and it says I can follow you wherever. Man, where was your family? They stopped talking to me years ago. I can see why. The stereotypes in that case are there for a reason. So here, again, the harassment continues.
Why are you not at Whipple every day fighting for the humanity, standing for our people? Where are you? You drink your coffee, you got your jewelry, you have...
So now we get on to the classic communist argument there. So you get a little bit of Marxism in there.
Where are you? You drink...
Just a random girl at church. She's just sitting there. So now they are attacking young lady. You've got your coffee. You've got your jewelry. Okay. That's just disgusting. First of all, let's say that she's wearing I don't see them following around AOC in her tax the rich, expensive custom dress at the Met Gala. No. They're just doing just a girl in church. That's all. Disgusting people.
Coffee, you got your jewelry, you have your nice clothes, but what do you do? What do you
Here's a young man just going to stand next to her so she feels a little safer. They're going to go after him.
do to stand for your Somali and Latino communities? I'm not going to comment. You have no comment. Exactly.
What are you going to do to stand for your Somali and Latino community? So first of all, we're using Latino again instead of Latinx. I guess very small progress has been made. Additionally, the idea that they're being yelled at now for being in church, because there's no reason to yell at the congregation of this church, no matter what. So they're like, why are you here in church instead of down there protesting at Whipple, the federal building in Minneapolis? There she is. There's Armstrong with the fist in the air. Oh, so powerful. Oh, so brave. Look at him. There you go. There's your coalition of protesters, ladies and gentlemen. You have the BLM leader. You have the insane person with schizophrenia, who we're going to get to in a second, the filmer of this video. You have the skinny, stringy communist in the Harry Potter glasses, who looks like they would blow over in a stiff breeze. I guess the person breadlines were made for. And then middle-aged Karen women on the left.
All these comfortable white people.
There's David.
Who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps.
Okay, obviously we know the concentration camp is a lie. Little bit of a hot tip here. If you go into a church building and it's a large open building and it has chairs, like instead of pews, that's not some super extremely wealthy church. Like churches that have like a large common room, they've just put chairs in, like the situation there. As someone who's worked on a lot of churches, including going into places like Worcester, Massachusetts, and actually fixing up like an old church, the large room you have to like bring stuff into. That argument's garbage. There's a little fun note here from someone who's done a lot of like work on churches here and there.
You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You come here to a man wearing a suit. Is a preacher? Did Jesus wear a suit? Did Jesus profit off the words? No.
So actually, yeah, Christ did, in fact, by the way, in the New Testament, according to the Koine, we're going to get into the Greek here. I love how the left-wing people who despise Jesus and think he doesn't exist claim to be better legal and theological scholars. We'll get to that with Don Lemon here in a second. The argument that, oh, you come in here as a man in a suit? Okay, first of all, you're going to go down there and yell at people in Atlanta for that? You go to church on a Sunday in Atlanta. You go to church in Easter in Atlanta. Man, you know, be more ashamed about how you dress in your life compared to how nice those people look. And it's good. It's good to look your best in the house of the Lord. You don't have to. But if your pastor wears a suit, that's the dunk. Jesus did wear nicer robes when he addressed in large crowds. He did. I had different sets of robes. Absolutely, he did. Now, were they like the nicest robes ever? No, that's not the point, though. I guarantee you the pastor wearing the off-the-rack suit didn't get that tailored. Nonsense. The stupidest, silliest arguments from these Marxist fools.
Jesus would die with immigrants. Do not touch me. Touch me again and see what happens.
Hey, you can't.
You are a fake Christian. Why are you not standing with your Somali and Latino communities? Why do I not see you out at Whipple every day protesting this attack on humanity? Where are you? You're sinners. You're pretending to be Christians. But we know you live an easy life, don't you? A very easy life while people are starving.
Starving? What does the starving thing have to do? Again, it's always come down to the Marxist line. I love it. Later on in the video, again, as they're chanting and yelling and screaming around, they're following people into their vehicles as they're trying to leave, which, again, is disgusting. There was a particularly awful image of a child who is crying on his mother's lap, terrified. And this enrages the protesters more, the rioters more. Now, Don Lemon was all over this particular event. Don Lemon went up, started harassing the pastor.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
All right, we're going to talk about that real quick. So, first of all, you do not have a right to storm into a church and disrupt things. That's not a thing. The First Amendment of the Constitution guarantees the freedom of speech in public spaces. You can protest outside a church, provided that according to local state ordinances, you're not disturbing the peace. But you are not allowed to go into a church, especially during a service, and disrupt and intimidate the congregants of that service. There are federal laws that make that perfectly clear. There is legal precedent in this country that makes that perfectly clear. I have the First Amendment does not give you a right to violate the law. That is not a thing. You cannot trespass. You cannot go in an area that you are not wanted in, that is not a publicly owned area. Even then, you can't go into the post office and do this. You can't. They will remove you from the post office. It is preventing the normal operation of business, even on a publicly owned piece of land, much less a private property, which this clearly is. Don Lemon going, well, the people have the First Amendment. Again, if you're a journalist, whatever, and you're making the case, you're going to go and then be a part of the arguing with individuals. So you go and you ask a question, you say, hey, why do you believe this? And then you follow that up with, well, but here's why you're wrong and you're awful. You're not a journalist, you're an activist. That's the difference, by the way.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
I love that. So the pastor starts to give the gospel. We're here because Christ is the hope of the world. And he just places his hand on Don as he said that, because Don is like trying to cram what looks to be like some kind of knockoff Rode Go microphone, little lapel microphone that he's using as a condenser mic, which that's not what that's for, or a dynamic microphone, not what that's for in this case. But the pastor's just like, hey, distance, and then Don's like, don't push me, don't push me.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's
and getting all up in his personal space.
why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why we're here. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading.
I love that. There it is. There's love. Do you think Jesus would be understanding and love these folks? Love clearly means just being walked all over and letting people do awful things and break the law. That's what Jesus meant. Like, don't you think Jesus would have peace and love, like around the campfire, like I heard about that guy. It was like really all about love and stuff,
The love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked if you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
There you go. Oh, you don't want us in here? He said that'll come into play here in a minute.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Now, he does finish by telling everyone to like and subscribe because it's all a big, huge stunt for him. Disgusting stuff. Now, the immediate response, the call from a lot of people in the United States was that he needs to be arrested and that also the Nikema Levy Armstrong needs to be arrested. Now, he's bothered the pastor. He's done all of this disgusting stuff. He then gets out in front of the public and makes the case. And a lot of libertarians also come out to make the case for him, which is really weird. They're like, well, actually, it was just minor misdemeanors. You shouldn't call for people to be arrested because that's really terrible. Okay. Here's Don Lemon. Early on, the argument that was made by some on the left was that Don Lemon just was out walking around, maybe to get a Subway sandwich at 2 a.m, Jussie Smollett style, and just so happened to see this protest of people marching. You know how you're out and about sometimes and you'll see like a crowd of people marching. And you're like, wow, where are those fine First Amendmenters going? Yes, we all have been in that situation. And then sniffing the trail, he's like, come on, Scoob, we got to see where that protest is going. It's like, right. And then they go follow to the church. That's not what happened. That's a lie. Don Lemon was there at the very beginning, coordinating with Levy Armstrong to go and harass this church and, again, violate local, state, and federal law. So here he is, by the way, right at the beginning.
How are you?
Good to see you.
They're getting the operation together. Again,
They're getting the operation together. That doesn't sound like happenstance to me.
An operation that is secret, that they invited folks out. Can't tell you what is going to happen, but you're going to watch it live unfold here on the Don Lemon Show.
Oh, now that's starting to sound pretty premeditated. Now, don't worry. For those of you out there who have gotten out your Ovaltine decoder rings and somehow broke the code that this is right before them going and participating in this riot.
There are for this reason, it may look like MAGA coded, but there's a reason they have so many white people here. I'm just going to be honest. It's because of the...
I love it so much. I do. I love it when you have individuals like this who will get out there and they'll whine that there aren't enough white people at things to support anything, like a black-owned business or a BLM protest or whatever. And then when white people show up, then he's like, I realize it looks like white-coded. There's all these white people everywhere. What do you want? What do you want? You just want to be a racist piece of garbage. I'm pretty sure that when Christ was preaching, he didn't look over the crowd and say, how many white Greek people do we have here? How many of you are looking a little pasty Roman? How many Jews do we have in the room here? Oh no, he didn't do that. Mr. Uber Christian. But alas, I want to get into the Jennifer Welch, kind of the Botox lady of the left accusation here, because this is, again, now the Trump administration is introducing a large federal investigation into this group. We're going to talk about, people are saying, well, why hasn't he been arrested already? And we'll get into that with Rob Bluey here in a couple of minutes here. But Jennifer Welch, we've known before, who said that Charlie Kirk deserved to die and it was good, and anyone who doesn't celebrate it, they're going to come after you too. She initially gets out and runs cover for him. This is the purpose of all of the left-wing menopausal women that they have always in outrage, is that they have to run cover for really bad behavior. Exhibit A.
So that is one of those white evangelical churches that turn out to vote for Donald Trump, 80+% of that sect of Christianity.
Does she have any evidence that this church was like a Trump supporting kind of church? Nope. None whatsoever. There's no evidence that City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota is like Trump campaign headquarters for the Twin Cities. The rage and anger that dissatisfied left-wing women have for independent Christians in this country is bizarre.
These are the don't tread on me folks. These are the people who feel like America is for Americans and American only. These are white nationalists. And the DOJ got their panties in a wad because these protesters went straight to them and addressed their hypocrisy.
Oh, narrative shift. Before it was, there's this pastor and there's ICE pastor doing, we're going to go get him. And then they addressed their hypocrisy. So here is Jennifer Welch making it very clear. If you go to a church, because she doesn't actually think like, independent, fundamental, evangelical church, whatever. She just wants people to be harassed. Now, God forbid, if you were to go and even speak to Jennifer, she would call the cops immediately. If you showed up outside her house and started screaming and yelling and chanting, that wouldn't be very First Amendment-y for her. But she's ready to run cover for anyone else who gets harassed. Interesting how that always works.
You, a gay Black journalist, are, prime bait for them to drum up these charges. But so that's one issue. You went right into the most entitled white nationalists there are, and they feel that ICE is 100%.
Okay, sorry. Just before she glazes the gay Black man any more than the particular individuals on the left, middle-aged women love. It fits all of like the different oppressed structures, so they have to like pay homage. Now, that accusation, here is Lemon's actual response, and he then says that if you don't like this particular action, then it's all white supremacy. And you know what? Those at the church were probably white supremacists too.
Saying, don't you think Jesus would want to talk to these people and help these people?
I'm sorry. This church is evil. What the church needs is Jesus to come in and talk to them.
Yeah. Well, and also remember, someone who wrote the book and was on your show wrote a book about God. Jesus turned.
Oh wow! Wrote a whole book about God. Wow, incredible.
Turned the tables over in the temple, right? He flipped the tables because he was tired of them, not doing what they're supposed to do in his Father's house and not living up to the tenets of Christianity.
No. Jesus Christ, according to the Gospels, not someone who wrote a book about God, went to the temple. And when he got to the courtyard of the temple, not in the temple itself, but the courtyard of the temple, in which people were exchanging monies for sacrifices, exchanging monies for just common livestock, were exchanging monies and charging exorbitant rates and doing common, what is considered dirty commercial business at the temple. Christ flipped over tables because they were not following the tenets of Judaism. Christ made it very clear that in his Father's house, the temple was supposed to be carried out his Father's business. It was not supposed to be a den of money changers. And he flipped over a bunch of tables and he got out the whip and he drove people out. That has nothing to do with this church, where people are actively sitting there worshiping and listening to scripture preached. I don't recall Paul's New Testament scriptures going, all right, you Corinthians, better not be listening to anyone preach the word of God. I might have to go in there and flip over some tables.
And so, it is surprising to me if it is true that this person somehow works for ICE. And also it is true that they're not understanding now of the protesters, is that they're doing the exact opposite of what Christianity is supposed to be about. And I say in the reporting, Jen, if you look at it, and if you go and look at the full thing, I say it's interesting that you see the Pope, people over here praying.
It gets worse. Because if you don't want to be harassed and molested at church, you're clearly entitled with your white supremacy.
And there's a certain degree of entitlement. I think people who are, in the religious groups like that, it's not the type of Christianity that I practice.
Oh, please. Tell me how you, Don Lemon, who do not go to church, who can't quote scripture in any way, shape, or form, who don't show any of the fruits of the Spirit, in an open homosexual marriage. Please tell me about the tenets of Christianity, Don Lemon. Yes. Yeah. When I think of great Christians of the past, I think of St. Thomas Aquinas, Charles Spurgeon, and then Don Lemon.
But I think that they're entitled, and that entitlement comes from a supremacy, a white supremacy. And they think that this country was built for them, that it is a Christian country, when actually we left England because we wanted religious freedom.
That's not why we left England, first of all. Number two, the religious freedom in the United States was built for the expression of religious adherence to Yahweh, to Jehovah Jireh. So the argument that you're making here, like that saying, oh, this is a Christian country, that doesn't mean what you think it means. A Christian country means it was founded on the tenets and beliefs and principles of Christianity and Christian morality. That is what makes it different. The idea, the idea behind all of this, a Christian country does not mean everyone who is here has to be Christian. A Christian country means that the morals, the tenets, and the precepts that built Christianity, that are the common moral ethos in a Christian household, for example, is what built the country. That is the idea. Whereas an Islamic country, even though, you'll have someone get out there and say, oh, you can be just as Christian in Qatar, that in the middle of that nonsense, you have to hide everything about what it is that you preach. And there is still an honor culture that involves the beating and the molesting of women and children in Qatar, an Islamic country. It's a moral structure. It's not all right, everyone check this box as to what religion you're in. That's not how this works.
It's religious freedom, but only if you're a Christian and only if you're a white male, pretty much. And so, yeah, I absolutely 100%, but it's an intimidation tactic. And, I said, I don't understand how I've become the face of it when I was a journalist.
Here you go. So he's going to make it all about himself. Here we go. He's like, man, I know why everyone's really mad at me. It's not because I went in there and participated in premeditated harassment, trespass, violating the FACE Act, intimidation. There's an argument to be made that it's intimidation for a political means, making this terrorism. Yes, absolutely. If you attempt to intimidate through force, that would be terrorism for a political aim. Yep. Now, I do find it funny that Don is hey, this anger at white men when is he married one. I do find that hilarious. Again, the diversity of the church, told you that would come up later. I see a lot of people in various shades, colors, and ethnicities in that church, in the chairs. One of the predominant photos going around the internet is an Asian mother and her child crying in fear of the people yelling at her for attending church. Ah, yes, the notable white supremacy of Asians. Yes, thank you, Harvard.
I do understand that. I'm the biggest name there. And I'm also, as I was on with my producers this morning, you and Kylie talk all the time. My producers were saying, I said, how did I become the face of this? And my producer said, Don, you're a gay black man in America.
It's all so self-obsessed. Oh, wait, where's the lecture on pride, Don? Come on, everyone knows the first thing that God hates, according to the book of Proverbs, is a proud look. Second would be a lying tongue. But, well, alas. Now, there's other stuff to get into on this particular thing. He does start to backtrack now because he's under federal investigation. So he's come out to kind of walk things back and say, oh, it's political prosecution. I'm just like Jimmy Kimmel, only gayer or something.
MAGA administration and the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true. So let me just make it clear, because this a assistant attorney general, I don't know, gosh, what's her name? Something Hammett.
Harmeet Dillon is the name that you're looking for. Interesting how if I guarantee you, if this was a different administration and it was an assistant attorney general who was a black woman and there was a conservative who didn't remember his name, he would jump down their throat. He can't remember an Indian woman serving as the assistant attorney general for civil rights, something he supposedly cares very much about.
Dillon or whatever. So
Dillon, not Gillen. Google's free, son.
I had no affiliation to that organization. I didn't even know they were going to this church until...
Oh, I didn't even know they were going to this church, he says. Oh, I didn't know we were even going there.
How are you? Good. See you. They're getting the operation together. Again, this is an operation that is secret, that they invited folks out. Can't tell you what is going to happen, but you're going to watch it live unfold.
Oh, I can't tell you what's going to happen. They've told me. We've talked about it. Oh,
So we followed them there. We were there chronicling protests. Once the protest started in the church, we did an act of journalism, which was report on it and talk to the people who were involved, which included the pastor, members of the church, and members of the organization.
Okay, I did an act of journalism. Okay, cool fun fact here. Next time that you are committing a murder, some mortgage fraud, you're out there committing, like $18 billion and, Somali daycare fraud, whatever, healthcare, Medicaid fraud. Maybe you're doing some grand theft auto, maybe a little bit of arson. Maybe you're just out there committing a little light domestic abuse. Just tell the police officer, hey, I'm just doing an act of journalism. It's not prostitution, sir. It's pornography because I filmed it. Guess what? That argument doesn't work. It's been tried before. No. If you go as an idiot and pick up a hooker on the corner and have it recorded, guess what? That's still prostitution, even though you're filming it. Nope. In the same way, you go and commit harassment and trespassing, asked you to leave, you bust in, you cause a huge scene. You can't just go, I'm performing an act of journalism. No, not how that works. You don't get to look at the cop and suddenly go, ollie, ollie, oxen free.
That's it. It's called journalism. First Amendment, all that stuff. For all of you people who believe in the First Amendment, absolutist, there you go. So why don't you talk to the actual person who is in charge of the organization and whose idea it was to have the protests at the church before you start blaming me for stuff for which you have no idea.
Now, what does she actually have to say about all of this? Maybe she regrets, again, making children cry, mortifying children, terrifying them, that they're supposed to be against that, right? Aren't they? Aren't they supposed to be against terrifying children? Right? That sounds like something that they say ICE is going around terrifying children and putting them in concentration camps and stuff. That's what I was told. Well, when she was asked, she being the lady who officially headed it up, Nikema Levy-Armstrong, who, by the way, since then has made a Facebook post of all of the individuals she could list who were at the protest with her and tagged every single one of them. There's nothing more BLM than if I'm going down, you're going down with me. That's just freaking funny. But anyway, Nikema Levy-Armstrong, she gets out there and she's asked by News Nation, hey, maybe did you go a little too far here? Maybe you wanted to go in there and confront the pastor. That's one thing. Still would be illegal. You wanted to go in there and confront the pastor because of this one Reddit post you saw that you were stupid enough to believe. But maybe like harassing children might be a little bit much. Here was Nikema's response.
Do you guys feel like perhaps maybe you went too far? I know that there was one guy
Absolutely not. Listen. I'm not going to go down this line of questioning with
no accountability. I'm not going to go down this line of questioning. How dare you ask if I do some things right or wrong?
This is gaslighting. Who has gone too far is Donald Trump.
Yes, Donald Trump. He called you up and said, is this Nikema? I'm going to tell you what to do. You're going to get 15 of the ugliest people and that one guy, Don Lemon. You walk down the street and then you scream at children and make them cry. Do you got it? All right, great. I'll talk at you later. Accountability and women on the left are as far apart from each other as decent health policy and Anthony Fauci.
Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, and the people who run ICE.
None of those people made you harass children. None of them. No, not a thing. So I'm very much going to enjoy when she absolutely is 100% brought up on charges. Now, this brings us to the ballad of William Kelly, the guy who was doing the screaming and being the worst human being possible. Someone whom I have never wanted to see punched in the face or hit with a lead pipe more. You shouldn't say that on the air. I don't care. No, this individual, this is why you carry in church. If someone shows up and does this stuff, defend your church. Protect yourself. Put that man on the ground. If someone shows up, trespasses on your property, and starts screaming at you, like William Kelly, if someone showed up on my property and did so, then they just must have chosen that place to lay down for a very long time. So here he is now. Now he's in probably more trouble than anybody because, again, he's like screaming at children, intimidating people, screaming about starving children. Interesting. Anyway, here's William Kelly after the fact now realizing, there might be consequences.
You think your little death threats are going to intimidate me? You know how many fucking times I should have been dead? I'm a fucking combat infantry veteran. I'm lucky I fucking made it home.
Whatever sergeant let this man through boot needs to be horsewhipped.
My life has been hard. Mm-hmm. You can't scare me. You can't fucking intimidate me. And even if you do come for me, and even if you do fucking kill me, as Fred Hampton said, you can kill the revolutionary, but not the revolution.
Well, I don't know what Fred Hampton or his reasonably priced Hampton Inns have to do with this. But you in the keffiyeh and the hat and the Marxist catchphrases, you can't kill the revolution. I'll say it. I'll be that guy. I'll be that guy to say it. the very first thing that I will do when you are arrested is enjoy a very fine cigar. Absolutely. I might even drive up for your particular trial and just smirk at you the entire time before you go share a cell with Sean Diddy Combs or Don Lemon, whichever. Whichever's first in this particular instance. He now is doing little rallies because, of course he is.
I mean, what we're seeing around this country is they're using their political influence to attack people that disagree with them.
You went into a church and yelled at the people just listening to a sermon, not even about immigrants, just listen to a dude preaching. For political reasons, you intimidated and screamed at women and children.
They're going to come at me with charges, and I'm not scared of that. There's no base for these charges. I did not block them.
Oh, who in the world is oh my goodness, look at the lady behind him. Whoo, boy. Now, that's a picture of mental health right there. Yikes. Anyway, continue.
From, their service. They welcomed us in. They never asked us to leave.
On videotape, we have people saying, please leave. They didn't welcome you in. That is a lie. Do you know why? We have footage of you going into the church. No one's like, hey, welcome, here's a mint.
Police never came in and removed us.
That's true, and that's going to be a problem for Jacob Frey.
So we didn't stop their service. In fact, people were still praying the entire time. The music was still playing the entire time. So, Pam Bondi, you want to come and arrest me?
Yeah, pre-recorded music tends to keep playing if no one hits like the pause or the stop button.
You want to come and give me charges? So be it. And for all the people giving me death threats, threatening my life, kill me. Go ahead, kill me. Because you know what? As Fred Hampton said...
Oh, here we go. He's like the ladies on the left who only read Harry Potter. It's like the only book series I've read. Like, it's just like Voldemort. You go, he read one Fred Hampton quote. And he's like, as Pete Frampton said, do you feel like I do? You can kill the revolutionary, but, here's a guitar solo. Incredible. Incredible times. Seriously, truly wonderful. Now, we've spent enough on this particular individual. There is one other thing worth pointing out, and this is due to the excellent reporting from Luke Rosiak over at the Daily Wire. One of the protesters spoken with at the church is a top aide for the George Soros-backed prosecutor in Minneapolis that would be responsible for prosecuting the church protest. Yeah. Local and state elections, they matter because they end up resulting in the prosecutors that sit in positions like these. Now, we're gonna pop out a second and actually talk to Rob Bluey about, if we get anything from this, and then, of course, some of the other news of the day. There's quite a bit of it. Don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more to cover. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast with special guest Rob Bluey.
You heard the music. It's Tuesday, so therefore we bring on Rob Bluey, president of the Daily Signal, in that festering sewer of Washington, D.C., which smells slightly different than the festering sewer in Minneapolis. Rob, how's it going?
It's going well, Tony. So, what an introduction. I appreciate it.
You got to find new ways to, excitedly bring people in. All right. I've got a lot of people, even in the live comments tonight. All right. You can see them over on the live stream. They're saying, hey, why hasn't Attorney General Pam Bondi arrested Don Lemon? Why haven't we sent in the troops and arrested all of those protesters? Walk us through that process.
Sure. So I would imagine, as somebody who's never worked in law enforcement, and I'm not a lawyer, but just from the basic knowledge I have of this case and then other cases like it, you would have to go through an investigative process. I mean, you don't just go and arrest people. You obviously need some evidence. There appears to be a predominance of evidence in this case, right, to you and me as a layman. But I think that law enforcement would probably want to take their time. They don't want to screw anything up. And if there's one thing that we know about this Department of Justice and this FBI in particular, they are doing things by the book. I mean, for instance, it just came out, in recent days, that Kash Patel, under his leadership, has nabbed 5 of the top 10 on the most wanted list. Joe Biden's FBI got 4 of 10 over the course of 4 years. And so I have confidence that this FBI knows what it's doing. It just probably needs a little bit more time to get the job done.
It's a very strange place to be in because you do want, how do I put this? I do want there to be, sorry, not to make the entire evening just football metaphors. I do really want a Kurt Signetti kind of situation here where you have a grown man who comes in, who sets standards and his dad and gives everyone that calm, assuring feeling that everything is being taken care of, not really flamboyant about it. And in this administration, we have people who are getting things done. And also there are people who, some of the Getty image photographers might take photos of looking, really spastic or worried or unkempt. And it gives a view to the American people as though everything is just kind of bouncing around randomly. But in DC, when we actually speak to these officials, that doesn't seem to be the case. It's honestly a situation where there's a lot getting done in a short amount of time, and it kind of gives more of a chaotic image than is actually there.
Well, there's truth to that, yes. And by the way, I also think that some of it is intentional. For instance, I do think that Donald Trump likes to throw people off of their game by doing by juggling multiple balls, right? I mean, he's trying to not only solve the economic challenges that he inherited as president, while at the same time throwing out things like Greenland. Well, we still have a situation in Iran. I mean, so there are numerous.
We said this 1 year ago today. Yeah. To the day, we said this exact thing. He's bringing in all of the Mavericks, full court press. I mean, and you're right, Greenland, Iran, Venezuela. The question that I have for you, and I think a lot of our viewers have for those, because we have our daily signal, when we talk about what everyone's writing, in the morning, what they're keeping an eye on, it feels as though we are trying to cover as many things at once. Do you think that in the next 3 years of the Trump administration, that some of this starts to boil down and become routine, or can we expect first year Trump on all of this kind of for the rest of the administration?
Oh my. I mean, I at this point, if I was a betting man, I'd probably have to say you're going to experience this throughout the 1,096 days that are left in the Trump administration, because this is just how the man operates. However,
Polymarket, did you hear that? You hear that betting reference? See, this is why you should sponsor that. No, I'm just please continue.
But Tony, I think the other thing to keep in mind here is how do the voters react to that? And so we are going to have a test of this. There are 53 Republican senators and 47 that caucus with the Democrats, and so both of those houses of Congress could be up for grabs in the midterm elections. And if that happens, you better believe that not only will we see an impeachment of Donald Trump, but they'll probably go after each of his cabinet secretaries individually as well. And so that would just bring to a standstill any ability to govern for the final 2 years of his administration. And it doesn't set up somebody like a J.D. Vance for much success heading into the 2028 presidential election. So that's why I think it's so important right now, early in the year in January, to be having this conversation. And Tony, I just want to stress again, it's not that you can't take, just because you're focused on the economy doesn't mean you can't do other things as well. I just think that you have to make sure that you're weaving in the message about the economy wherever you can, and try to make a convincing argument to voters that you don't want to go back to 4 years of what Joe Biden delivered. You're better off under Donald Trump and Republicans.
Right. The walking and chewing gum at the same time thing we often discuss in terms of foreign policy and then whatever's going on at home. But when you have a lot of different things going on at home, same conversation, different actors. This is the last thing I want to ask you. And this is something that has, I won't say it kept me up, but it has been something that's kind of stuck up in the back of my mind. I have seen more productive press conferences when I have seen John Fetterman and Dave McCormick together. I don't know if I've ever seen a Republican and a Democrat senator in a single state, or Commonwealth in Pennsylvania's case, going around together and answering questions on the economy, on industry, on foreign policy, on immigration, on diplomacy, together, and being far more unified. You know me, I don't care for the hippy-dippy like togetherness nonsense, but is there perhaps a new part of American politics emerging in what we're seeing in Pennsylvania?
I think possibly. I mean, obviously, Fetterman is a unique case, and McCormick as well. But Fetterman, obviously, somebody who was deeply disliked by Republicans, and they did everything they could to try to defeat him. And then he obviously has a stroke, and he has a change of heart, it seems, on some of these issues, and he's more common sense. And so I don't know if that can be replicated. I think the other challenge, Tony, is how many states actually have one Republican and one Democrat. In many cases, you have a completely red state or a completely blue state, so there's not really the opportunity that you're speaking of. But it's encouraging to see. I think that the American people ultimately like to see that the politicians in Washington, D.C. can get along and get things done, as opposed to bickering at each other all the time.
I mean, again, the reason I bring this up is, again, just thinking reflectively, not reflexively, hopefully anyway. I remember there was a time when we had Joe Donnelly, Senator Joe Donnelly, Democrat senator from Indiana. And then, of course, serving a lot of the same time, we had Republican Senator Dan Coates, who followed in this heels from Evan Bayh, who used to be alongside Republican Richard Lugar. Sorry, remembering my state history. And you didn't see them going around doing rallies with each other and doing press conferences. Again, the only reason I say that is every once in a while I have kind of a hunch. And this may be one of those hunches that I think might be more prevalent. So we can refer to it in 2 years if I'm right. You never know.
Well, hey, let's look back on it. It's a unique case, and Pennsylvania obviously remains a critical battleground state and will be in 2028 as well. So what those two senators do could set the tone for sure.
Rob Bluey, president of the Daily Signal. Again, appreciate the kind of stuff that we get to talk about here on the weekly segments. And hey, I'll say that our viewers do enjoy these segments, so we'll keep them up.
Well, Tony, we didn't get to talk sports tonight, but congrats to your Hoosiers, and it was a tremendous victory. And I love to see what Mendoza's going to do next.
Hey, I mean, we're thrilled to see it. The spirit of Bobby Knight, in fact, lives on. We'll keep cheering there. Rob Bluey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, very, 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 very briefly here. So a little glitch there in that interview. I'm not entirely sure what all of the screen went black for a few seconds. We'll get that cut out later on in the YouTube edit, and we'll upload the full interview with Rob a little bit later. So sorry about that. Strange, fun glitches here. Last, before we get to me, talking about some Hoosier stuff, because, of course I'm going to, I do want to cover some of the actual 2026 situation, because what we are leaning into right now, we're going to have to cover Kash Patel, 5 of the 10 most wanted for the FBI being captured. We'll talk about what's going on over there, and also, not to mention, people stealing independent journalists like Nick Sordor's camera in Minneapolis. We'll have to get to that another show. Because first and foremost, heading into 2026, you have an entire American public that is going to base whether or not they come out to vote in the midterms on how they feel at the moment. How they feel at the moment. The American voter is all about feeling at the moment. If you feel at the moment that the economy is good, you are likely to come out and support that. If you feel that things are bad at the moment, you are likely to come out and vote against it. However, the midterms are not a presidential how I'm feeling as much as they are a rebuke and a casting of votes in favor of certain individuals who are running for congressional positions. Meaning this, you have to have people who are running on things that you're like, yeah, I could kind of get in line for that. And this is one of the reasons that a couple of years ago, when you had people like Carrie Lake, for example, who would come out and say crazy cuckoo bird stuff, it didn't really rally people in Arizona to come out and vote in the former TV news anchor. So what do you actually run right now? Well, Republicans, they have some pretty decent ground in front of them to run. If the economy picks up in 2026 to a point where everyone is feeling it and it's undeniable, that is going to do wonders for them as candidates in 2026. Now, for the Democrats, they also have to get people out to vote for them. Right now, the Democrats are experiencing the worst approval numbers they've ever had, ever. Not even close. And so what are they going to focus on in order to say, hey, we have this plan that's going to outlast some of you who are feeling melancholy right now in the country? That's how a lot of individuals over on the media side are describing the economy. It's just melancholy. It's not great. It's not bad. Here, it's that kind of meh recovery feeling. So the Democrats have to say, here's how I would fix it. And they're not doing that. And when I say they're not doing that, I mean that instead they are essentially focusing on the rape whistle brigade and threats of violence. That is what Democrats are making their entire approach. Ilhan Omar, representative from Minnesota, has now stated that they're going to come out and derail the entire federal budget over ICE. Not one more cent for ICE. This is a terrible move heading into 2026. On the flip side, Republicans are doing okay. Now, on one side, I haven't heard any news about this midterm Republican convention thing, which is a great idea, needs to happen. I'm seeing some kind of lackluster rallying from the RNC so far, but there is some pretty decent news. The House Freedom Caucus is back. The House Freedom Caucus on the Republican side of the aisle for getting Republicans through and across the finish line is back. They are delivering a series of demands for Republicans in 2026. And with the Trump administration to actually get some things codified, exiting the United Nations, calling for an immigration freeze, a couple of other goals. We're going to have some more kind of a deeper dive in this over on the Daily Signal side. The House Freedom Caucus getting back into the game, actually saying, okay, I know we're in power. I know we've done this stuff, but here's where we could go. That's excellent. That's what the Republican Party has been missing. Because right now there's a lot of, to the American people, to people who might vote Republican, there's a lot of heel dragging. You have to get, if you want to get Republicans out in 2026, you have to get them to the polls, which means you got to inspire them. As I've said before to people who've tuned in, I've said it 1,000 times. Going to vote is like going to the DMV. It sucks. It's annoying. It's boring. It's not something that people like to do. It is an annoyance. So you have to get a candidate that makes going to the DMV worth it. So you don't want to run someone who you don't really want to be seen in public, even possibly supporting as your candidate. Now, on the flip side, Democrats are making it their rootinest, tootinest, dearest goal in their cold hearts to bring forward individuals who are going to say the worst possible thing all the time. For example, the new Representative Grijalva, the lady that was supposed to be the new freshest face of the Democrats, I think from Colorado. She's come out and announced, yeah, those people harassing the churchgoers in Minneapolis, they didn't go too far.
Do you believe it was a step too far for protesters to go into a church?
I don't. I think that when they find out that someone that's supposed to be speaking for the community
Arizona, not Colorado, excuse me.
In church is found out to be an ICE, like a federal agent that is running ICE in their communities, they have the right to go in there. Churches have always been an open door. And from my understanding in the videos that I saw, those protesters were not violent in any way.
That's what they're going to run with. Yeah, you can go harass people. Yeah, Summer of Love, George Floyd stuff. Go in there, harass people, make children cry. Okay, you really want to run this playbook right now? That's the move? Now, the ladies over on the left are picking up that banner and they are running with it or driving with it in this particular instance. There is, I mentioned this earlier on in the show, the trend of the rape whistle brigade, in which they take alert like rape whistles and drive around and just blow on them like a coping mechanism.
So we're out in the community being patrollers and observers, just
Patrollers and observers. Mm-hmm.
had an interaction with ICE.
Now, that may look like Jennifer Welch to you. It is not. That is also not Nicole Wallace. That is Botox liberal lady number 513. You may have confused it with Botox liberal lady number 37. I know. They're all very, very independent thinkers and very different from one another, and they are not all the exact same. But this is patrol officer Karen, patrol officer Jennifer, patrol officer Shelbiffery. She's excited. She's out here. She's ready to boogie.
Pulled up alongside my vehicle, rolled down his window with his face mask on, waved at me, and then did this, I see you. They like to play games. We're moving on to check out some other vulnerable community spaces. This is what we can do. Got my whistle.
Yeah, this is what we can do. Got the rape whistle ready to go.
These are what our days look like, friends.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait a minute here. Hang on, I saw that. What's your Kayla Berg for Congress? Oh, Karen is so close. Kayla, there you go. Kayla Berg for Congress. That's what she's doing for you. She's blowing a rape whistle and driving around. Yeah. Yeah, that's some powerful, powerful stuff. Like, what if they have like a message? Let's give them a chance here. What's their message?
This is a message from my mom.
Okay, let's hear a message for her mom.
If I am executed by ICE officers today, it will not be because of anything that I did. I want you to know a couple things. First, I don't carry weapons on me. Second, I won't be holding any signs. There will be no indication from me that I'm a violent person or a threat to anyone.
So that's a little different. So I'm not going to be holding any guns. Yeah, okay, thanks, Tex. I'm not going to be holding any signs. That's great. Although I'm pretty sure Little Caesars needs like a new sign spinner. That takes a lot of work, by the way. I'm not going to be having any violent intention whatsoever. Well, are you going to be one of these people that is trying to cut between federal law enforcement and the individual they were arresting for violating federal law? Because that is in of itself a violent action that might get you decked or pepper sprayed or rubber bullet in the throated or temporarily blinded, or if you try to drive over officers, shot.
I do not plan on following anyone. I do not plan on screaming or shouting or even speaking to anyone.
Then what are you doing?
I am there to observe and document.
Okay. So, House over here is going to go, break down the investigation, going to record all of the stuff here. We've got some excellent, exciting things. They're going to do some observing, some monitoring, going to get a diagnosis at the end. It's going to be cool.
This is a historical moment for me in my lifetime.
Yeah, okay.
For the state of Minnesota. And no matter what the outcome is, I believe it deserves to be documented.
Okay.
I believe it is my responsibility and my right to document it. Firsthand, as an observer, show what is happening in my city.
That's totally fine. Literally not one person, not a single person around anywhere who has been like, that's terrible, you can't do that. No one's done that. It's like someone going, I'm going to go outside in shorts. And you're like, okay. They're like, no one can tell me not to wear shorts outside. And it's like, yeah, okay, sure. I don't care. And then it's like, you don't want me to wear shorts. I don't know why we're having this conversation. This video that you recorded, it's also attention whorish.
I believe in the freedom and the foundations of America and the United States Constitution. I also believe in change and progress. If I am executed today by ICE officers, it will not be because of anything that I did.
You said that. You're running out of things to say. This wasn't as powerful as you envisioned it in the shower.
I'm saying this because I need you to understand what you're supporting and what you're fighting against.
You know what does this? A text. If you really need to message the old ma and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, you can just text that to him. You don't have to be like, hi, this is for there's an old Tim and Eric sketch in which they do an entire real estate commercial for one guy. And they broadcast it on TV, but it's just for one guy. It's the famous sketch where at the end he goes, it's free real estate. They did that as a silly sketch because you wouldn't air a commercial for one guy. It's just like, oh, attention, Facebook. I do not give them permission to broadcast to my mom. Excellent. Thank you. Stellar. We're also going to go out there. We're going to do some stalking. All right, let's do it.
Has anyone else stalked their coworkers' social media pages just to see where they stand in this whole thing?
Nope.
Because I did, and I was really surprised at some people reposting MAGA stuff and posting stuff on their stories, supporting everything that's going on. And now every time I go into work, I'm just looking at them with a side eye, but they don't know that I know.
They know. Believe me, they know. You're as insufferable here as you are there. They know. We knew. I even at the most liberal Indianapolis public schools where I worked, I had a couple of friends. We knew the insufferable people. And whenever they walked into the room just became less fun to be in. We know you're insufferable. Believe me, we don't have to stalk people to find out that you are the killer of joy and the bringer of sad school marminess.
But yeah, it's tragic.
Excellent. Exciting. Now we get to Target. Target. Oh man, fun stuff at Target. So first of all, we got the Karens out at Target too. Target detectives. We got Sherlock Holman Goods over here.
Video, folks. I want people to see this live video. We are at the Target.
We're at the Target. Yep, gonna upload this to the Facebook.
Dinah, we've got to have about 70 people in line here. Everybody bought salt and they're returning it. Why? Because we are asking that Target step up as a corporation of moral courage in this critical moment in our country.
Incredible. So we got another Home Depot situation. So a few weeks ago, there was this call to go out to your local Home Depot and buy an ice scraper. Now, a lot of people didn't actually go and buy ice scrapers because they're retarded and they have no idea what they're looking for at a Home Depot. And so they bought like drywall spatulas to like apply putty. But anyway, they bought them and then they went and they returned them. See, to show that they don't like ice. That's what they're doing here with salt. They got salt to melt the ice. Brilliant, incredible. Someone call Bill Nye. And then they're going to return it. Because as we all know, the people working the customer service desk at Home Depot and Target are clearly making corporate decisions on political policy.
ICE is being leveraging Target's silence.
Again, there's all the old women on the left. I'm doing my part. I went and bought a whole case of Mortons and returned every one of them.
They are abducting Target employees. They are staging in Target parking lots. They are going into Target stores and using it.
They're going into Target stores and using it. Those sick bastards. How could they do that? They wouldn't do it. I heard there was one guy who went in and like he bought something at a Target. In Minneapolis, you're just supposed to steal stuff. Now, by the way, again, over the weekend, there was a Target sit-in. So again, the entire menopausal section of the left has decided just to protest at Target. They're going to do a little sit-in, which, okay, here you go. Again, Lesbala in action.
We are one. We won't stop fighting. We won't stop fighting. Till ICE is gone. Till ICE is gone.
It's actually really rude to clap. You're supposed to like break into the snaps. Come on, guys. Basic poetry circle rules.
Target says that their mission is to support the joy of everyday life for all families.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Webster's dictionary defines joy as incredible. Yes, Target corporate is watching store number 531 and going, hey, wait. Is that a childless woman I see expressing her political opinions? Quick, Johnson, get the security camera centered on her. Enhance.
Then do it.
Yeah. Do it now. Do it. Support the joy, guys. Like, oh my gosh. I went back to get like a 7-Up. And like there was a line next to the popcorn machine. And then someone said, you're not even in a Target, you're in a Speedway. And I cried for 3 hours.
Justice for profit. People over.
I sit here not only as a mother or a grandmother, but I sit here as a great-granddaughter of an immigrant.
Of course, there it is. There it is. You got to get I sit here, the great-great-granddaughter of an immigrant. That's good for you. Congrats, you did it. You made it. Hey, you know what probably would disappoint your ancestors? The fact that their great-great-grandchild or whatever is sitting in a Target whining because people who did not immigrate legally, like her great-great-grandparent did, maybe sitting in a Target whining that Target isn't being mean enough to federal law enforcement may not be what they had in mind for their descendants. So there's more crying here, just everywhere. Excellent. Yeah, same. And then you have the law enforcement patrolling division out there demanding to see warrants. Just random people. Show me a warrant.
Backing up.
You know what we're looking for? You want to know?
You have a warrant? I'd love to see it. Okay, can I see it?
Who are you?
Can I see it?
Are you related?
I live here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you get to see it?
Okay, do you have a warrant? I'd like to see it. I can put it on video.
No.
Oh, you don't? So you don't have a warrant?
I have a warrant, but
I live here in this apartment complex. Where's your warrant? I'm not here for you. Then show me your warrant. He's like, no. She's like, well, then you don't have a warrant. Master negotiator right over here.
I'm not going to show you.
Why not?
Because you're nobody.
Okay. You're here because the office is closed, right?
No. We're here because we're looking for...
You're here because the office is closed. You don't have permission to be here.
You know what he did?
Not how that works. Not how that works. You don't need to contact the local Karen in your apartment complex and be like, excuse me, Sharon Elva, can you let the law enforcement in? That's not a thing. Not how that works.
You want to know what he did? Lula Civis College was a minor.
You want to know what your president did? He's a rapist. You need to go look for that motherfucker.
Yeah, well.
Yep.
Yeah. But you got one in your building and you're over here protecting him.
I'm not protecting nothing. I'm here to observe and make sure y'all are acting lawfully.
Yeah, again, you going up and demand, you can stand there and record all you want. You don't have a right to trespass or to get in the, like, stop the officer and say, I demand you show me a warrant. That's not your job. That's not what you as a random person don't have. You don't get to be Barney Fife or Goldmer walking around Mayberry going, citizens arrest. That's not a thing. Not how that works. Now, there are some things that are threats in this whole wonderful shenanigan. And then there are some things that really aren't threats that people are making too big of a deal about. And we'll get to those. So first of all, there are some real threats that are coming out, people that are being whipped into doing really terrible and awful things. So here's a person with an AI voice, like an inflatable costume, saying they're going to kill people because they're seeing other inflatable costume wearers. I'm sorry, it's very serious. I shouldn't laugh like this. Get pepper sprayed in their fan air intake holes at these riots.
We have noticed a select few using the inflatable costumes to denote a message of peaceful and joyful resistance. We, however, are not...
the TV glitch to show a bunch of different inflatable animals.
Not interested in peace. This is not the time for peace. That is not an option on the table. Fascism has arrived. The state is building concentration camps.
They're not.
Trump's secret police are engaged in explicit ethnic cleansing.
Not ethnic cleansing, not how that works.
Do not confuse our adorable form with passivity. We are uncomfortably aware that there is no comfortable way out from here.
Is there like a pink lizard with like a Nerf gun? We're uncomfortably aware that they're comfortably uncomfortable in our comfort.
You see, Operation Inflation is about one thing.
Videos where someone sprays fart spray in the intake hole and the person starts freaking out because they can't get out of the inflatable. That's what it's about. That's the operation. Operation Inflation, in which I will give you one entire congratulation for the laugh.
Disorienting fascist control of the narrative landscape. We are not responding to violence with nonviolence. We are not responding to excessive force with whimsy. We are responding to fascism with anti-fascism. Fascism requires a constant reduction of social phenomena, for their loyalists are incredibly gullible, emotional, resentful, and stupid. Every complex nuance of social political life must be reduced to snapshots and disarming talking points.
Says the guy in the inflatable zebra suit.
Eruptions of social unrest and public refusal become riots. The riot becomes dichotomous, and you're assigned a role, violent rioter or peaceful protester.
Yeah, that is how that goes, by the way. If you commit crimes or you harbor those who commit crimes, you are part of the riot. That's how that works. If you're in a group protesting, and somebody commits a crime, and then they come stand next to you and you harbor them and act as though nothing is out of the ordinary, and then you protest alongside them, you are now complicit in the riot. That is how that, by the way, that's legal precedent that goes back a very long time. If you were just standing there on a sidewalk chanting, I don't like ICE, then that's fine. Now, that's lame, and one might ask you why, but that is your right to be as stupid as you'd like, as loudly as you would like.
Then the naive carry forth and proclaim, the fascists want you to be timid and peaceful, or the fascists want you to be violent and reactive. Your assigned role is, it still refuses the script all the same. By disrupting the narrative, we build real infrastructure for resistance. We will...
I love that. They do... I'm not going to listen to this inflatable zebra anymore. They do close by actually threatening violence. Like they're going to kill ICE officers. You have other individuals, suggesting some of the same stuff. You can just go out and kill ICE.
You can just kill ICE agents. You know that?
Yeah, so you have like these kinds of individuals. Then there are things that are not threats. So like, and if someone actively gets out there and says, hey, I will kill people. Yeah, that's a threat. That is absolutely a threat. Here is something that is not a threat. And I'm seeing some people online like freak out about this, and not necessarily. But anyway, here's a guy who is holding a rifle. He's just standing in his yard holding the rifle. Just battle ready, me just like draped across his chest, not brandishing it at anybody. And this also upset some folks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You live in the neighborhood? Yep, this is my block, this is my area. I don't go into other people's neighborhoods and try and intimidate them. I protect my people.
All right, he's like, I'm going to protect my people. I'm standing here and I'm protecting my people and whatever. This is not a threat. This is not. This is an individual who is carrying out his Second Amendment rights to the United States Constitution. You have a right to carry a rifle and stand in your yard or in the yard of someone who gives you permission and stand there. Now, what you do not have a right to do is brandish that rifle at federal law enforcement who is there conducting a federally upheld legal premise. Nope. There's a difference. Now, if his finger moves to the trigger and he starts pointing it, yeah, that's brandishing a weapon. That's illegal. That's different. There's another individual of another picture of a guy who was sitting on the back of his vehicle, and he also had like a little like 22 rifle that was built to look like an AR. It was like, oh no, he's gonna no. Just somebody doing Second Amendment stuff. Now, the moment that they cross that line, then it is to be taken seriously. Somebody just standing there with the right, again, he may be wrong, he may be a big moron, but it is his right to stand there and do so. No, I don't consider that to be an active threat. Something to watch? Absolutely. Carrying it openly, something that officers should keep an eye on? Absolutely. Have someone ready to respond in case he then raises that rifle or brandishes it? Absolutely. But him standing there, rifle just slung across his chest, finger not on the trigger, fine. Constitutional rights do apply. Absolutely. Now, there are questions on intimidation. Again, like if you show up to a public place and you have the rifle drawn and you are standing between a federal officer, now you brandishing a weapon, the rules on brandishing change. The rules on intimidation change based on where you are. But if you are in your property, private property in your yard, or you are in someone else's yard who has given you permission to stand there, yeah, that's not illegal. That's not something that the feds should just go in and make, kind of wanton tackles on. So that said and aside, yeah, I agree. One of the comments says it's fine, but he's a fool. Bingo. Correct. So that said, we are 7 minutes over normal bonus tonus stuff. I don't think we're going to have time to get into Canada's shift over to China this evening. There's also some really, really, really good mail time questions. Has the church made a statement so far is probably the one that I will answer right now to Bobbins galore. And the answer to that is no, they haven't made an official statement. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of misinformation. People like using AI junk now to kind of muddy the waters. So that said, just as a final matter here, to J.R.I. Zock, very, very kind $10 super chat. Zeden, $49.99 super chat. Very, very kind of you. And to Hermetic Signal, 2 $5 super chats. Very, very kind. You guys do not have to do that at all. At all. So thank you very much for tuning in tonight. We're going to cover a lot more of this, including some of these mail time questions, some more of these news updates from Minneapolis. And actually, we do actually have a response from the church. I'm 13 minutes ago. I was given this particular statement sent in 8:22 p.m. Okay, a couple of minutes ago. Here you go. Breaking on the Tony Kinnett cast from the worship service of At Cities Church. Jesus is real. When we gather on Sunday mornings to worship him, we are gladly giving ourselves to what is most central and sacred in our life together. Quote, we worship Jesus, end quote, stretches as the main banner of our church alongside our two other pursuits that flow from it, loving one another and seeking the good of the Twin Cities. On Sunday, January 18th, a group of agitators jarringly disrupted our worship gathering. They accosted members of our congregation, frightened children, and created a scene marked by intimidation and threat. Such conduct is shameful, unlawful, and will not be tolerated. Invading a church service to disrupt the worship of Jesus or any other act of worship is protected by neither the Christian scriptures nor the laws of this nation. We welcome the respectful dialogue about present issues and about how the realness of Jesus as revealed in the Bible provides the only final answers to the world's most complex and intractable problems. Jesus Christ, the divine Son of God, lived, died, and rose again for the rescue of all who put their faith in him. He offers a love that transcends cultures, borders, policies, and politics. As those who have been loved and rescued by him, we will not shrink from worshiping Jesus, nor will we stop, quote, teaching and proclaiming the good news that Jesus is the Messiah, end quote. That's Acts 5:42. Church buildings are meant to be places of peace and solace where worshipers can hear and live out this message. We therefore call on local, state, and national leaders to protect this fundamental right. We are evaluating next steps with our legal counsel. So that is a statement from @Cities Church. That account was created in February 2011. I would assume that's probably the church. Obviously, if that's not the church, we will update that. And I would say at this moment, they're absolutely right. I hope the Trump administration brings down the maximum hammer of justice in this particular instance. So there you go. We do actually have this particular answer to the response from the church. Thank you very much to almost not quite producer Jen for sending that over to us before we ended the show. That said, we'll be back tomorrow. A lot more. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC. Take care.